Hi, you're listening to the Build Your Digital Community podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Bartold, the co-founder and co-CEO of The Social Snippet, a social media agency focused on business owners growing their digital communities. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things digital community building so that you can grow your network and ultimately your business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Build Your Digital Community. I'm your host, I'm Kristina, and I am thrilled to talk to you today about a topic that I posted about on my Instagram and it got a lot of love. And so I decided to expand on it a little bit and talk about it a little bit further, which is why everybody needs a personal brand Instagram. So no matter what kind of business you have, whether it's brick and mortar or it's an online service, you need a personal Instagram. And I'm going to tell you why and kind of go into the pros and cons of why people do it, why people don't do it, and how to make the most of it, really. I am so passionate about this topic, and actually, truthfully, many of you might not know me and Maria's story, but this is a bit how we got into doing the social snippet. I had been doing freelance social media. It's coming up on almost 10 years this upcoming year, and I loved it. I loved the clients I worked with and all of that, but I didn't really see that as my career at the time, which is nuts. I can't even imagine where I'd be if I had started 10 years ago, if Maria and I had got into the social snippet. Maria was way too young to be in business 10 years ago, so I don't think it would have worked out. But why I am so passionate about it is because at that time when Maria and I were growing my personal brand, which was a personal development coaching, I was doing leadership coaching brand, that was really where my Instagram started to kind of pop off. And I was using my Instagram for 100% of my lead generation, for building up my community, for showing up in stories. I was consistently kind of building that up. And it really made such a difference for when I got to the point that I started working at the Social Snippet, on the Social Snippet with Maria, because we already had this base of community. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where this came from. So something I've been seeing a lot with a lot of our social media folks that come and do discovery calls with us is that there is a huge reluctancy to show up as themselves. So they have no problem talking about their products. They have no problem talking about their services. Like, they provide great work. Maybe they're a local realtor or they're doing something really cool, but they have no problem talking about their craft. But they have a huge problem talking about themselves. And I almost think that's kind of humbling. Every time I come across someone like that, I'm like, I love that, because why you don't do it is because you're worried about how it might come across. And fair enough. Honestly, fair enough. If that's what's keeping you up, that's totally fine. But what's so powerful is that people actually do want us to show up. And they want us to show up fully and show up as ourselves. And I want to talk a little bit more about why and how we can kind of maximize that. So why I'm talking about a personal Instagram, I'm talking about kind of the Kristina Bartold of the Social Snippet, right? I'm not talking about the Social Snippet account. You should always have an account for your business, no matter what your business is. Even if you're not ready to post yet or you're in the launch phase, secure your handles. So we've had this come up with people before where, they have this amazing idea for a launch. They're really excited about a business opportunity, something really cool is happening, and they don't secure their handles. And then they're kind of SOL when it comes up that someone else has taken their handles. So I had a really big nightmare happen for a client when they started working with us, and they had a bunch of packaging and they used a different username. And then the username had already been taken by somebody else, and it was already on all their packaging. So it can be pretty damaging. So if you've got an idea, if you've got a dream, like those people who collect domains for future endeavors, just secure the handles. Just do it. Do it today. So why I say all of that is because people really love a journey. So when we're talking about Instagram or social media or a personal profile, like my Kristina Bartold phase, is that so many my whole life is my Kristina Bartold phase, but my personal development business, which was my little phase of life over there, that was where I was really cultivating a lot of community. So I still do, I would say, hopefully my followers feel the same way, but I was really, really committed to showing up personally all of the time. So I was telling people what I was reading all of the time, if I was going places. I had businesses tell me I was making an impact when I was profiling them or showing pictures of them. That was impactful with only at that time less than 3,500 followers. that made me feel great about all of the work that I was putting in. And so what I found the most interesting was that people loved seeing me transition from being a personal development coach into owning the social media agency with Maria. And I was so nervous about it. And I tell clients this all the time. I'm like, nobody cares about you as much as you think they care about you. And I mean that in the best way. Is that no one's sitting at home being like, wow, niche change. How dare she, right? Like, we have this perception that people are always talking about us. And sure, people might be, but like no one who's doing more than you is talking about you, right? So Lori Harder's not sitting around talking about me making a niche change. So I am just showing up in my fullest self. That being said, people love to follow along a journey. So if you're, showing up consistently, growing your family, growing your business, growing whatever that looks like, people love to be a part of it. And I saw that really clearly during this time because, I had gotten married right before I had started this business. So, Josh was kind of newer to my life in a sense. We got our dog, Patrick, like all of these things, and people would know these things about me. So they would be like, oh my gosh, like, how's Patrick? Like, send a Patrick pic. Like, I would do cute polls with him. Like, people love that stuff. Or even when I was, and this is a weirder example, like, I hadn't drank coffee in over a year because I had a gallbladder issue and I had emergency surgery in January. And like my followers were there for it. Like actually morbidly, like it's like the most amount of engagement I've ever received. Like I'm like, I have to lose an organ for you people to like me. But it was funny because people were reaching out to me being like, hey, don't forget to take digestive enzymes. Or like now that you don't have a gallbladder, like this is the kind of stuff that you should know. I had gallbladder surgery and it was so challenging for me. Like my mom had gallbladder surgery and she had to fight her way to get it. Like these things brought me closer to people and had nothing to do with social media because people love a journey because like us, like we're all people, right? Like why we love influencers so much is because they're so similar to us. So even if you see an influencer and they are not like you might not resonate as much with them. But if you have influencers that you're like, oh my gosh, like I actually like love, I love them, like, cause I love, that they shop at the store, that they do this or they do this kind of haul or whatever. Like that's powerful because we actually love them because they're like us. And so what we want to be doing is always building that know, like, and trust with our audience that's outside of essentially our niche or whatever business we're in right now, because you have no idea like what the future holds for you. So if you'll listen to my episode with Chris Harder, just a few episodes back, I'll link it in the show notes. We talk a lot about that, about he went from, working at Isogenics or for Isogenics, and then now he's building this amazing peer-to-peer lending app. So it's like so much has shifted in that direction for him, but it's the people he knew in Isogenics and in these masterminds and all of this stuff that have been supporting his peer-to-peer lending app. And so similarly, you have no idea what you're building. Like for me, I always think about this. I'm like, the social snippet is far from my last business. Maria and I talk about this all the time. Look out for our luxury Airbnbs. They're coming. But like, we're always thinking about new ways to grow our businesses and our wealth and our lives, right? And so once your mind is open to that, like it is so cool what's possible. And so people want to be a part of that. And like, just remembering that like when you show up fully as yourself, and you give other people the permission to also show up fully as themselves. I can't tell you how many people have said to me like, oh my gosh, like I'm channeling you. I'm about to show up in stories for the first time. And I take that as like the highest compliment. Like that is the highest compliment. That is high energy, right? So that is big. And I love that. What you want to be doing is remembering people buy from people. And so that doesn't mean that you have to every single day put everything that you do on your profile. But the more personal information that you're comfortable sharing, the better it is that you're able to build that connection. And so people want to hear from you. They want to hear if you're doing something. They want to hear like what you're up to, the behind the scenes of your business, what it's like being an entrepreneur. Because being an entrepreneur, even though you're surrounded by so many of them, isn't average. So that's not the average thing to do. And so there's lots of people out there like that might, ruffle some feathers. And I think people working 9-to-5s are just as extraordinary, but like it takes a lot to become an entrepreneur. You're usually making a huge sacrifice and people want to be a part of that. So even for myself, that's something I really found so fascinating was I actually think my life is pretty like fine. Like I love my life, but like, I don't think there's anything like supremely interesting about it. And today I was just actually with my husband's cousin who I'm really tight with. And she mentioned to me, oh my God, I would love to travel as much as you travel. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do travel a lot. And she was like, oh my gosh, if you ever need an assistant, I would love to be your assistant. Like, I saw that you did this on Instagram. That was so cool. This was so cool. Like, that was powerful for her. I made her think differently about what's possible for work. So when we're showing up fully as ourselves, we're giving people permission to do the same. And so I always encourage people, like, if somebody unfollows you because you're being yourself and like they don't like it, so what? Like, those aren't your people. Those aren't the people that you want to be jamming out with day in, day out, talking to, enjoying. Like, you really want to be working with people who are going to pump you up, right? Like, and that doesn't mean you're not going to get haters. That doesn't mean you're not going to get disagreements, but like, you want to be working with people that are going to be moving the needle forward for you. So I want to actually give an example about this because I think that when we prioritize our community and our relationships on Instagram, like in our personal profiles, it actually supersedes and encourages our bigger work, right? So I talk about this all the time. If you've ever listened to this podcast before, I've told you, I don't pitch. Like, unless someone's asking me for a package, they're not getting a package from me. Like, I'm not going to ever be like, hey, like, we should do a partnership. We should do this. Like, I definitely have been in the energy of that before where, it's been a scarce season or maybe not as many new clients as we were expecting. And then we've had seasons where it's been way too much work and we weren't expecting the amount of work we got. Like, there's a push and a pull always. So that being said, I always find that like when I step into my fullest self and I'm sharing what I'm up to and what businesses I'm working with and where I'm going and even little things like where I'm going out for lunch or whatever, it gives the opportunity for collaboration in my business that I wasn't expecting, even if I don't tag the social snippet. So a perfect example of this that I actually love is from today. I went and got my nails done, like I mentioned, and I booked my appointment through Instagram, like through a DM. This is a new salon. They opened up across the street from my house. So I just DM'd them and said, hey, I'm like looking for like nails today. I don't know if you're free. Like, will you take me kind of thing? And the woman's like, yeah, for sure. We just opened. So great. So I booked this thing and I come inside and I sit down and she's like, hey, Kristina. And I was like, hello, like, greetings. And she's like, I need social media help. And that's what you do, right? And I was like, yeah, that is what I do. And she's like, could you send me some information? Like, I would love to hear more about what you do and how you help people. Like, that wasn't my social snippet account. Like, I wasn't DMing B2B over here, right? Like, I was literally messaging for my personal account. And then after this, I'm going to go prep a package for this woman, right? Like, that's the power of our business. And you might be like, oh yeah, Kristina, like that's easy for you to say because, everybody needs social media in their business, but not everyone needs like a life coach. You have no idea who people know. And how, when you show up in your fullest extent, people are going to be inspired by you and they're talking about you in rooms you're not even in. So I've made investments, 4-figure, 5-figure investments in people that they have no idea who I am or did not know before I gave them this money because I've been thinking about them for 6 months nonstop, right? That's powerful. And you could be that person for someone. And a lot of that comes from building that know, like, and trust, building that connection. And so when we're showing up on our personal Instagrams, it doesn't need to be over the top. Like, it doesn't need to be like, hi, like, this is my tuna salad, like, yum, yum. Like, it doesn't need to be like that. It can be as powerful or as not powerful as you want it to be, but making it as behind the scenes of your life that will help people connect with you. And I've actually loved it more so because it's helped me build amazing relationships. Like, I have amazing relationships on my personal Instagram with people that I didn't even know. Like, I didn't even know before this. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I talk to them every single day because, they followed me on Instagram and now we DM and now we have this great relationship. And this is why when we prioritize community and relationships, we get to be ambassadors for the things that we love. You have no idea the opportunities that are going to come from it. So what I want to encourage you to do today is if you've been on the fence about making like a personal Instagram page that would be like your version of a Kristina Bartold or a Maria Tassi or whatever, I would encourage you to do it and ask your audience what they want to see from you. So Maria recently did this and it was really cool what came up for her because it's very different than what my audience is looking for from me. My audience loves kind of entrepreneurship content. They love community content. I'm followed by a lot of women. Like, it's a very like specific kind of like brand. But Maria's was really interesting because recently she posted on Instagram and she asked, what do you want to see from me? And people actually said what they wanted to see from her was they wanted to see more wellness stuff. because Maria is on a wellness kind of health journey as well as a kind of burnout journey, like recovery. And people wanted to know more about that. They were curious. They weren't sure what that would look like. So it was really just so interesting for me to see like what that meant and how she could show up. So people love when Maria shows up in a gym picture, or they love when they see Maria going for a midday walk. And my audience might like that too, but that's less of a focus on my page. But she's building that know, like, and trust with people, because the other thing is that you just want really to be top of mind for people when they're thinking about whatever the problem is that you solve. So even if it's not today, 5 years from now, them DMing you and being like, oh my gosh, like, totally. I totally remember that Marina is the personal brand person and I have a personal branding issue and Marina's definitely who I need to work with. Right? Done. So you're able to really, finesse that and make that happen. So I also love that episode with Marina. That's one of my top rated episodes and most reviewed is the Marina Middleton episode. So give that a listen as well. And I'll link that in the show notes. But really about like, why do you need a personal brand? And if you do need someone to teach you how to create a personal brand, you want to be a little bit like, I'm a messy action person. I do things before I'm ready. I'm somebody like, I don't typically require coaching before things get started. Like I'm kind of like, whoa, like I'm going in. But Marina is amazing if you're somebody who like needs the support, and even if you just want to bounce ideas off her, she's incredible. So we love Marina. But that being said, everyone should be posting. So I want to encourage you this week, if you could show up on your personal Instagram and just share like what's going on for you, whether that's a win of the week, something behind the scenes in your business, something that it has to do that's a little bit more personal, that connects folks, and really share that with your audience and see the response you get back. See if people dig it. And if you get people unfollowing you, those aren't your people. And I promise you, like, especially product-based businesses, I have to beg to do stuff like this. And I really, really think that there's something so special about people knowing your story. Because you've got an amazing story. Story is so important. And I want to see that come through on people's Instagram stories, on their reels, and how they show up. So that is why I'm on my soapbox today to talk a little bit about personal branding and why you need a personal branded Instagram. And if you have a personal branded Instagram, you listen to this episode, shoot me a tag, post in your stories, share this with somebody who's being reluctant, and always DM me letting me know what you think. I'm always so eager to hear what questions you have, what you want to hear on the podcast, and what's really important to you. So thanks again for spending your time with me today, and I hope you have an amazing day.